I think Bitcoin is the best money ever for two reasons. Bitcoin is the hardest money ever. It's harder than gold, which is that Bitcoin is faster and more reliable than fiat money, which is government money. So I'll try and summarize those two main ideas for you to kick this off.
천재적인 경제학자 사이페딘 아모스는 비트코인의 혁명가로 여러 저서와 함께 강연을 하고 있습니다. 법정화폐는 무너지고 있고 비트코인만이 앞으로 유일한 화폐 수단이 될 것이라고 얘기하죠. 그가 쓴 저서는 베스트셀러에 올라 있으며 스트래티지의 CEO인 마이클 세일러도 그가 쓴 저서를 보고 비트코인을 매수했다고 얘기했습니다. 비트코인을 철학적이고 경제학적인 관점에서 지켜보며 현재 법정화폐 가치보다 비트코인이 뛰어나다고 얘기하며 비트코인이 미래의 유일한 화폐 수단이 될 수도 있다고 얘기합니다.
I think Bitcoin is the hardest money because the supply growth rate of Bitcoin is the lowest of any money that has ever existed, any money that we've ever had. And we're very sure of it. For 15 years, nobody has managed to mess with this supply growth rate. And you can be as sure as possible, I would say, of anything that nobody's going to be able to change this supply growth rate going into the future, which is a kind of assurance that you do not have with other kinds of things. You don't know what kind of supply growth rate the forms of money that are issued by people, like government money, are going to take over the future, but it's generally a lot higher. So it used to be that everybody used to use gold, and gold grew at around 2%. Then we moved to government money, and government money grows at around 14% per year on average over the last 60 years. So that's what the supply growth rate is like on average. Now that includes the better currencies like the euro, the dollar, the Swiss franc. They grow at around 7, 8, 9% per year. And then it includes, the basket cases that sometimes have something like 50%, 100%, 300% growth per year. But you come out to an average user experience of 14%, which means you lose half of your purchasing power in 5 years if you just hold on to cash. So effectively, fiat money has destroyed humanity's ability to save reliably. Instead of having the ability to save value into the future, you need to take risk with the money that you've already worked for. And so effectively, you need to have another job as an investor just to keep the value of the money that you've earned from your actual work. And so that now is changed because Bitcoin is available. And so you don't have to play that game where you are playing with casino chips. You're gambling with casino chips that are dropping in value. So you need to be constantly winning just to stay flat. You can opt out of this kind of stupid casino that is built to rob you and join a game that is not built to rob you, wherein you just hold a fraction of Bitcoin, a fixed fraction of the supply of Bitcoin that continuously holds on to its value over time because nobody can make more of it and most likely appreciates. So having this form of money available everybody in the world, I think is going to be enormously consequential. And on the other hand, if you look at the use of fiat money replaced gold because effectively governments could do it. They could put gold out of business because they could control central banks and they could make the central banks use fiat money. But that ultimately relies on credit and it relies on trust, which is effectively a human manual technology. Ultimately, you're counting on a bunch of people to wake up every morning and not mess up your money for you, which is a little bit like what it was like when you used to have to call an operator in order to connect your telephone. Some of you might be old enough to remember this. I do. Back in the day, sometimes you couldn't just dial the phone. You picked up the phone, somebody answered, and you told him who you wanted to talk to, and then he would connect you to somebody. And sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't. Then we figured out a way to do that, so there's just technology where you press a bunch of buttons and then the other person his phone rings and then you talk to him. And it's, of course, a lot more scalable. And this is effectively what Bitcoin does. This is how it improves over fiat. Fiat, as a form of money, had managed to improve over gold effectively by allowing people to spend it and send it internationally. But that was only done through relying on trusting in individuals. It was only done through relying on people turning up and doing that job and doing it honestly. And after 100 years, I think we have a very reliable track record to show that they haven't done it in a very honest way. I think phone operators were a lot more honest because there was not a lot of money to be made from messing up your phone calls, but there is a lot of money to be made from messing up your money. And so therefore, there is a strong incentive for it, and now you can opt out. So I think there is a much stronger imperative for using automated money than using automated phone calls. If I was given the choice, I'll take an operator and get to keep the automatic money. I think it's much more reliable because it gets rid of the element of trust. And this is the truly remarkable thing about Bitcoin, and why Bitcoin is such a mind-blowing technology, and why I believe it's completely unique as a form of money, in that it does not rely on other people for it to operate. It operates completely based on math, on the rules of math. There's an algorithm that controls the supply, it controls the payment clearance. If you have the private key, you can move the coins. You don't have the private key, you can't move the coins. It's completely free from human intervention. There's no admin. There's no person that you can appeal to. There's no customer service. There's no CEO. There's nobody that the government can put a gun to and force to change the way that Bitcoin works. Bitcoin just continuously exists and makes itself available for everybody around the world to use it, while it continues to be what I believe the best money ever. So it's faster than fiat, more reliable than fiat, and it is harder than gold. And I think the implication that we can go back to a hard money, I think, is enormous, because if you look at the world in the 19th century, you see that people had a much higher rate of saving back then than they did in the 20th century, where everybody was relying on debt. And the reason for that is because the value of money is constantly declining in the 20th century. And so, therefore, it makes no sense to save. On the other hand, it makes more sense to borrow, because if you borrow, you are able to benefit from the devaluation of the currency, whereas if you hold on to savings, you are hurt by the devaluation of the currency. So as a result, everybody, as an individual and as a society, becomes effectively a debt slave, and that includes corporations, it includes governments. Everybody has to be running on debt, and everybody is a couple of paychecks away from liquidation, because you have to be in debt, and so you have to be making your payments. And if you're not in debt, effectively you're losing value, you're subsidizing the other people that are in debt. They don't realize that the value of the prices, that the prices of things that you buy in the supermarket is going up, because the supply of money is increasing, not because shampoo or houses or cars or apples or oranges are becoming more expensive. We're making more of those things every year. They're becoming cheaper in real terms. We have more and more of them. They're not getting more expensive in real terms. It's the money that is getting cheaper, and the money is getting cheaper because that money is being printed to finance all kinds of insane forms of government spending and all kinds of local corruption. And that is what leads to all kinds of destruction. So Bitcoin effectively offers us a way out of this, offers us a way that we can all, anywhere, anyone in the world, can opt out of whatever insanity the government is doing and secure their own wealth, because it is just a superior form of money whose supply increases a lot less over time. So it holds on to its value a lot more, and it incentivizes people to think about the future more and more.
그는 비트코인이 기존의 법정화폐와는 달리 공급량이 일정하고 마음대로 발행할 수 없다고 말합니다. 또한 비트코인이 정부가 발행하는 법정화폐보다 빠르고 신뢰할 수 있는 자동화된 시스템을 갖추고 있다고 하죠. 비트코인은 단순한 기술이 아니라 사람들을 미래지향적으로 변화시키는 새로운 화폐 철학이라는 것이 그가 전하고자 하는 핵심 메시지입니다. 우리는 객관적인 시각으로 투자를 해야 하고, 지금 당장만 보고 투자할 게 아니라 미래를 보고 투자를 해야겠죠. 010-2472-0429 전화번호로 탈개미 적어서 문자 보내주시면 2025년 비트코인과 코인 시장에 대한 분석, 정보들 공유해드리겠습니다. 현재 우리에게 중요한 것은 이러한 정보를 어떻게 활용할 것인가입니다. 지금까지 영상 시청해주셔서 감사하고요. 다음에 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.